Hey everybody, I'm Allison. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my low-carb lemon blueberry scones. These are one of my favorite treats to make. I like to just do a big batch of them and then keep them in the freezer. And whenever I'm feeling like a scone or pastry, anything like that, I'll just pull one out of the freezer and warm it up and have it with some tea or coffee, and it's just such an awesome little afternoon treat I like to have. The flavor combination of lemon blueberry is also one of my favorites, but you could totally switch it up and do like orange cranberry or make chocolate chip scones, anything that you really like. I have a special guest chef today in my video. She is going to be helping me make the scones. But before we get into the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our other recipes or product reviews, anything like that. We post keto related videos all the time. But let's go ahead and get into the recipe. So the first thing you're going to want to do is combine a cup of almond flour, a quarter cup of coconut flour, a quarter cup of erythritol, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and a quarter teaspoon of pink salt in a large mixing bowl. Then in a separate bowl, combine a quarter cup of unsweetened almond milk, 1 egg, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a full teaspoon of lemon extract. Next, you're going to want to add the zest of 1 lemon to the wet mixture, but make sure that you save about a teaspoon or so for the glaze for later. The next thing you're going to want to do is add the wet mixture to the dry ingredients along with 2 tablespoons of melted butter. The next thing you're going to want to do is gently fold in a half a cup of fresh blueberries. So once you get to this stage, you can kind of look at your dough and decide if it looks too wet or too dry. If it's too dry, you can just add a little bit, like another small splash of almond milk, and just add a little bit at a time until you get to the consistency that you're looking for. And if it's a little too moist or too wet, then you can just add in a little bit more coconut flour, but be very careful because a little bit goes a long way with coconut flour. Mine is just a little bit moist right now, so I think I'm just gonna sprinkle in a touch of coconut flour and call it good. Next, what you're gonna wanna do is dump your dough into the center of a parchment paper lined baking sheet. Then I like to dust my hands in a little bit of coconut flour and kind of gently form the dough into a round disc. So once you've made your disc and gotten it as thick as you like, mine is probably, I'd say, almost an inch thick. Since this is almond flour and coconut flour, it doesn't really rise too much, but it does rise a little bit. The next thing you're going to want to do is cut the scones into 8 equal slices or portions. After you have cut your scones, you want to kind of scoot each wedge back and spread them apart from each other. I like to kind of get a knife up under there you just gently give them a little bit of space to bake. So once you have spread apart your scones, you just kind of want to go through and make sure that any blueberries that got, you know, moved or cut weird or squished out of the scones are tucked back in where they're supposed to go. But once you've done that, these are ready to go into a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. It just depends on how golden brown you like them and, you know, your oven, different things like that. But I would start checking these around 20 minutes. To make the lemon glaze for the top of your scones, you're gonna need some confectioner's erythritol and some lemon juice and the rest of the zest from the lemon we used earlier. So what I like to do is put a little bit of erythritol into a bowl. That's probably good, honey. And then I add the fresh lemon juice to it. And this is where you can kind of make it your own. If you want a really runny glaze, then you're gonna need a lot of lemon juice. If you want it a little bit thicker, then you use a little less. So I don't really have exact measurements for the glaze. I just kind of add a little bit of either or depending on how it looks and just get it to the point that I like it. Ready? You wanna go stir it in? So this is the consistency that I like. It's not too runny where it'll just like go right off the scones, and it's not thick as a frosting, but it's just a good, you know, glazing consistency. So once your glaze has reached the right consistency, you just need to add in the rest of that lemon zest and stir it in. And here are the scones after they came out of the oven. I let them cool down for about 15 minutes or so before I put the glaze on it, because if it's too hot, it'll just kind of melt right off and be really runny. So if they're a little bit cooler or, you know, closer to room temperature, then the glaze will set better. And now the last step is just to spoon the glaze over the scones. So once your scones have been glazed, you just want to let them sit at room temperature for a little while until the glaze sets. And here is a close-up of what one of the scones looks like. We actually made these yesterday and didn't have time to film our intro or the taste test because it got dark. So these were actually baked yesterday, but you can still see like the texture of them. The glaze has totally hardened, so it's not like wet and sticky or anything like that. But there's a good amount of blueberries, and the texture inside is just really, like, you can see that it's very, you know, scone-like. Oops. There we go. Yeah, you can see how like fluffy and crumbly they are. Like, this will focus. Okay, there we go. Look at that. You can see the crumb on it is just like a regular scone. And I don't know if you can tell just how moist these stay, but look at that. Like, it's not undercooked, but it's just perfectly moist. These are not dry scones at all. And they're so delicious. Oh, whoops. Okay, all right. Let's all grab our piece of scone and we're gonna give this a try, okay? Oh, you already mentioned, baby? Okay, let's go. It's so, the flavor is so like bright and fresh with all of the lemon zest and juice. It's so good. And you get little bursts of blueberry, and the actual like flavor of the scone is it's so good. I think that this is the best, like, it's so close to a regular scone that I think, you know, you could probably even get away with like not telling people that it's low carb and keto, and they're just gonna think it's a delicious low carb or a delicious lemon blueberry scone, excuse me. But these are so good. I know some people get triggered by the word moist, but there's no other way to describe the inside of these scones. They're just so good.
Moist.
And that is how I make my low carb lemon blueberry scones. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will catch you in my next video. Bye everyone.
Bye.